recording. Um, Share a screen. All right, so you should be able to see right now this home inspection checklist. So I thought I would go through what is on a home inspector's checklist, what he has to look for. And this actually gives us good ideas when we are um, when we're listing a house of what we should be looking for. We are not a home inspector, but if we see something that is on this list, we should make note of it because it could be something that turns out to be significant later on. The more home inspections that I go on, and I don't mean the whole thing, but just the last 30 minutes, and the more questions I ask of the home inspector, then the more I've learned about home inspections throughout the years. So let's just go through the list of what the home inspector checklist is. So the first thing they do is the grounds and exterior structure. So they looked for the foundation, see if it appears to be in good condition with no significant cracks. No evidence of leaks from the septic tank, and we'll talk more about that septic tank thing later on, but they'll, walk the yard and walk on the field, drain field, that it drains away from the house with no standing water. So, your gutters and your grate around the house, easily accessible crawl spaces to get to plumbing, exterior walls appear straight with no sagging, window and door frames appear square, the siding appears in good condition with no cracks or damage, bricks appear undamaged with no cracks and joints, paint isn't flaking or stained, roof shingles aren't missing or damaged, gutters show no decay or drain properly, chimneys appear straight and undamaged. Detached garage, sheds, fence, deck appear in good condition with no rotted wood or evidence of termites. So just think about this. So when we walk up to a property, here's some things we can look at. Is it peeling paint all around it? Is there peeling paint around the windows? A lot of times properties will have some wood that's rotting from the bottom up, especially by the garage doors there. What about the roof? Is there anything visible on the roof? Sometimes those shingles are waving at you. We have to make sure that we're taking that into account when we're listing and or shoring properties, I guess. Basement, no evidence of moisture or evidence of water damage to the floor, that there's a sump pump down there and operates properly. The attic, no evidence of staining from the roof. Structure shows no damage or decay. Adequate ventilation through the soffit vents and end louvers. Installation is sufficient and installed properly. Electrical splices are contained. Visible plumbing under the sink is in good condition and shows no signs of water damage. Adequate water pressure for hot and cold water at all fixtures. Tub, shower, and sinks drain smoothly. Toilet flushes and fills properly. Toilet is stable with no rocking or stains at the base. Do you know what they call that if it rocks? Loose stool. That's my dad joke. No evidence of leaking around the base of the tub or shower. In the kitchen, they're going to look for visible plumbing under the sink is in good condition, shows no signs of water damage. There are no working exhaust fans, vents to outside. Garbage disposal is operational. Water flow to sink is adequate and drains properly. Built-in appliances operate properly. In the interior rooms, are the floors, walls, ceilings appear straight, level, without visible stains, cracking, or damage? Doors open easily and latch properly when closed. Lights and switches operate properly. Adequate number of electrical outlets in each room. Heating and air conditioning vents in all rooms. Fireplaces has no cracking or staining. Fireplace flue, has been cleaned and is lined. Smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are working and properly located. Stairway treads and risers are solid. Wiring is in good condition. Service panel has standard capacity with cables attached correctly. Cables are secured and protected. No exposed electrical splices. No gas odor. Air conditioning and heating operates well. One thing to note that in the winter time, they cannot run your air conditioning. Even if you crank it to 80 in your house, they can't run your air conditioning when it's cold outside, or it will ruin your air conditioning. So there are times when the air conditioning cannot be checked. In the summertime, you can turn your heat on. It's not going to ruin anything. But in the winter, the air conditioning system is not set up that way. So air filters are clean. Flues have no open seams and show up to chimney connection. Cooling unit has no visible rust. Plumbing, the visible pipes have no damage or evidence of leaks. Water heater shows no signs of rust. Water pressure falls within accepted range. Hot water temperature does not exceed 125 degrees Fahrenheit. So these are just some of the things that they're looking for that I got off of the American Home Inspector website. Other things, inspections that we might need are water, well, and septic inspection. And that is usually done by another inspector, a licensed master plumber, to collect the water correctly, not just from the tap. It's something like the lowest tap in the house, and it has to be like cleaned and through this threaded or a threaded thing or something. So, and then of course their septics or your water treatment system. Extra inspections that you might think of having are if they have a pool inspection. The other thing is home inspectors don't do fireplace or wood stove inspections. And sometimes there'll be a fireplace that maybe somebody hasn't used while they live there. I definitely would get a fireplace inspector out there, a fireplace chimney cleaner before you started a fire. So I just wanted to give you some of that on there. And then we would talk about really how the inspection works in the offer to purchase. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring up the offer to purchase. And this is one that I worked on last year. And we'll kind of go through some things. So first of all, it says that I got the real estate condition report. Okay. So it also says that I'm agreeing to everything in the real estate condition report dated 8/22. So let's go look up that real estate condition report. I have that in here. So they filled it out 8/22. They said they're aware of defects in part of the plumbing. They said they're aware of defects in the basement or foundation, including cracks, seepage, and bulges. They said they are aware of a basement window or plumbing leaks, overflow sinks, bathtubs, or sewers, or other ongoing water or moisture intrusions and conditions. They've explained that the bathtub faucet leaks. The pipes behind the shower wall may be leaking. There are some cracks in the basement that water comes in mainly in the corners. There were no gutters on the house. They said they were aware of termite, powder, post beetle, or carpenter ant infestation impacting trees. They said the hornets are going under the bottom of the siding, under the small living room window. When I see something like this, I realize that these people are going out of their way to put the things that they think are defects on the condition report, because that's not quite what it's asking, but that is great that they put it out there. And then the next, yes, let's see. Are you aware of other defects affecting the property? Other defects might include items such as drainage assessment or easement or grading problems, excessive sliding, settling, earth movements, or upheavals, or any other defect or material condition. So they disclosed this was an odd one, but there was a suicide by a gun in the garage. The seals leak on several windows. One window upstairs above the steps and the bathroom window have a crack in it. Only one window in the basement opens. There's a small garage door, doesn't lock. Two soft spots on the floor. One on the street side and bedroom, and one in the bedroom upstairs, which we never really found. But they did that. You can see that this person actually went above and beyond to fill this out. So that's this. So think of those things when we go through the inspection. So here's the inspection report on this property. And the thing that I like to do is read the summary, of course. This kind of tells us what's going on here for this home inspection, if things are functional, defect, all of those type of things. It just kind of goes through. Oh, I guess he doesn't. So here it talks about the steps on the back here, this patio. This probably isn't, legal. There's no handrails. What it says, back of the home shows the deck was removed from the home and temporary steps were installed without railings, resting on blocks. Recommended licensed contractor, evaluate, remedy as needed, as this is a fall hazard. My buyer was not concerned about this. Some electrical problems in the garage. This was the bathtub problem that was revealed. So this was in the real estate condition report. So we cannot ask for this in the home inspection. One thing I want to talk to you about, I'm going to put a pin in it right here, is make notes of that the things that they disclose in the real estate condition report, you can't now go back and ask them to fix, because remember, you were accepting those at that condition. The other thing I want to remind you is timing. If the home inspection is being put in for 15 days, you have 15 days to complete the home inspection and any negotiating to do with it before that 15 days is up. So when you're asking somebody to replace something, like doing some electrical work, nobody wants to just say yes to that, because that would be saying yes to an open-ended ticket. I always say a blank check. They want to get an estimate, see if they can afford that, if that's reasonable to them, and then say yes to it. So allow for those times in there, or amend for those times. But if you're on the last day, you're going to end up with a notice, and we'll talk more about those things, just because you ran out of time. And that is always on you. Okay. You should be watching the timelines and looking and pushing everybody towards the goal. They're not going to be pushing you towards the timelines. You have to be pushing them. Here's some broken seals, which they had also was on the real estate condition report. Smoke detector was missing. Some handrail balcony things. Some ungrounded 3-prong outlets, some electrical. I'm not gonna go too much, but more electrical, and some displacement of some of the crack in there in the block could allow moisture into the home. Chimney, some minor foundation cracks. And here, example of microbial growth. Do you know what microbial growth is? Mold. Not all mold is bad, but we like to call it something other than mold because it triggers people. This is just cleaning up with bleach. I heard him talk to him about it. Here he's checking out the temperature of the hot water heater. There wasn't an air conditioning. Goes through the furnace. So and that's kind of the report. Then you can see what we decided to do was we wrote up an amendment and we asked for these things. So due to the age of the main systems, furnace, water heater, air conditioning unit, buyer requests seller to purchase a UHP home warranty for buyers to start on the day of closing. Seller to have a licensed electrician make the following repairs or replacements before final walkthrough. In the garage, the ungrounded 3-prong outlets, exposing wire missing protection, missing GFCI protection, junction boxes with open knockouts. In the house, double tap breakers, ungrounded 3-prong outlets, right of the kitchen sink. I just kind of put in what it had said in the report. Exposed wiring, missing protection, missing GFCI's protection, double tap breakers in the main panel and pour support. And then to install smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. So in the scheme of all of this, the defects weren't a lot, and my buyer wanted to keep moving forward with it. So because of the age of really the hot water heater, the air conditioning, and the furnace, they were all ancient. I thought he should get a home warranty and keep it up until these things expire, because that could till they don't work, because it could be covered by the home warranty. So the first year it's covered by the seller now. The sellers did agree to do all of this work, but I wanted you to show you, like, we're using amendment for this because if we want to move forward with this offer, the first thing we want to do is ask for the repairs. Okay. And when we're asking for these repairs, these can be minor repairs and defects. So the notice is when we are giving notice of defects, and those can't be minor repairs. Okay, so I can't say replace this faucet in the notice of defects. I always want you to think of the amendment for asking. We're asking for something. We're asking to change the date. We're asking to change the purchase price. We're asking to fix these problems that we found in the home inspection. Also with this is, let's say that the electrician is really backed up. Maybe we can't get this done. So maybe then we would do a credit. So here's where I could do, we want a $3,000 credit to repair all electrical issues that were found. And we don't change the purchase price because the purchase price is what we're paying for the house. But we go ahead and do a credit back to the buyers for maybe the electrical that can't be done at this current time because we don't have an electrician available. And that almost happened here, but electrician came through. Now this is great. Everybody fixed everything. This went to closing. But this same Marcus guy, I worked on another house with him. And I'm not going to show you that inspection, but I wanted to show you the notice. Oops. Here it is. So here's a notice. Now, let me go back to the amendment for a second. Sorry, guys. So when you read number 2, lines 9 through, I don't know, 14, what do you notice there? Who is fixing the electrical? When does it need to be done by? Usually I have who's paying for it. I didn't have that in there because usually I wrote based on the home inspection, but I try to have who, what, where, when, why, how, all of those type of things in there. I can't say how to fix electrical when I don't know how it's supposed to be done. But of course I can say up to the electrician standards or things like that. But that you want to make sure that this isn't ambiguous, that everybody can understand this comment, that this reads, pretend somebody's reading it in front of a judge and jury, because that could happen someday. And the one time that you write the dumbest shit, that'll be the one that comes up. So make sure you never write the dumbest stuff and put in everything that you need to as clear as it can. Do not be referencing page 3 of that home inspection. Because one other thing that will happen then is they'll ask for that home inspection report. So you don't want to reference it. You want to list out what needs to be repaired. And they may give this to the electrician, and this reads what he needs to repair. If they don't give him the home inspection, it doesn't help him at all. Now, let's go back to the notice and see how we wrote those, how you write up the notice. Now, a notice means I'm giving you a notice of defects in the offer to purchase. It says that the buyer or the seller has the right to cure defects. It doesn't say we can tell them how to, when to, or anything like that. It says they have the right to cure defects, and we give them notice of defects, and now they have 10 days to elect their right to cure. So here are this was a bad one. We did walk away from this one. Here are the notice of defects for this house. Damaged basement window, missing railings on wood porch, railing gaps on deck, missing flashing on deck. Do you see these are statements of what is wrong, the defect? There's nothing else to it. It's real plain. Miswired open ground outlets. Chimney is wrapped. Undergrounded garage outlets, or ungrounded, sorry. Missing railings and balusters on flat roof, rubber roof. Improper kitchen sink drain. No bathroom drain or venting. No smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors. Electrical cord for upstairs room. Knob and tube wiring in the walls, attic, and in installation. Electrical issues throughout the house. Lead water pipes. Basement post columns and beams unsecured, and garage missing soffit coverings. So if I'm giving a notice and my goal is to get out of the contract, I am giving a notice with everything I can think of. And this is how you write a notice. You don't get to put in chimney needs to be tucked, pointed, and secured, and blah, blah, blah. Open outlets needed to be grounded, blah, blah. No, you're just stating the facts about it. Now, this one we wanted to kill the deal, either fix everything. But the one here that was the crazy, this will cost them a lot of money, is knob and tube wiring in the walls, attic, and insulation. The buyer wanted it completely out. He did not want one of these. It's out of the basement, it's out of the attic. There's no visible, but it's still behind everything. Well, all this, a house like this that has that is usually plaster and lath. And you really can't take it out of the walls unless you start renovating the house. So this was just going to not be obtainable. So when I know that I'm killing the deal and I send over notice, I send over a cancellation and mutual release at that time too. And that's what I did. Now, if I'm giving a notice, but I want them to fix it, I don't send over that cancellation and mutual release. In fact, I just keep sending amendments, trying to get them to do it until they just won't. And then I'll do a notice. Any questions on any of that?
Lana, I have one. So on the amendment, do you actually put where it says, attached documents, do you write the inspection report? I personally do not, because again, I do not want that tied to the lending side of things. I don't want the underwriter involved.
Okay, so there didn't used to be that line, so I never did. And then now there's a line, so I did. And this one I actually corrected it and removed it. So that I sent it over to the bank and everything without the inspection on it. It wasn't even signed with the inspection being included in there. Austin caught it and said, hey, I don't think you want to do that. So yeah, so what Nicole is saying is in my amendment here, I wrote inspection report. So if this amendment gets to the lender's going to require the inspection report. So we ended up redoing this one, I believe. So I want to go to the offer here a second and just make it clear on what are we doing? Here we go. So inspections and testing, buyer may only conduct inspections or tests if specific contingencies are included as a part of this offer. An inspection is defined as an observation of the property, which does not include an appraisal or testing of the property, other than testing for leaking carbon monoxide or testing for leaking LP gas or natural gas used as a fuel source, which are hereby authorized. A test is defined as the taking of samples of materials such as soils, water, air, or building material on the property for laboratory or other analysis of these materials. So when we're doing this, an inspector can't, let me grab this and see if it's vermiculite. Let me grab this and see if it's asbestos. Or, hey, this moisture meter reads that there's blah, 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 because none of those things can be tested. If necessary to satisfy the contingencies in this, sorry, I skipped a line. Seller agrees to allow buyers, inspectors, testers, and appraisers reasonable access to the property upon advance notice, if necessary, to satisfy the contingencies in this offer. Buyer or licensees or both may be present at all inspections and testing, except as otherwise provided. Seller's authorization for inspections does not authorize buyer to conduct testing of the property. Any contingency authorizing testing should specify the areas of the property to be tested, the purpose of the test, and any limitations on the buyer's testing and any other material terms of the contingency. The buyer agrees to promptly restore the property to its original condition after buyer's inspection and testings are completed unless otherwise agreed by the seller. Buyer agrees to promptly provide copies of all inspections and testing reports to the seller. Seller acknowledges that the certain inspections or tests may detect environmental pollution, which may be required to be reported to the DNR. So one thing, as when you're getting home inspections, you read them over and you forward them to the other agent immediately, okay? As soon as you're done looking at it, you forward it to them. There 24 hours, there's no reason necessary for it to be more than 24 hours. I just think it's a game to wait. Now, the reason why I also like giving them to the seller, listing agent, the seller's agent right away is they have no idea what we're asking for yet, but yet they're holding the bag. And usually the bag's got some dog poop in it, right? There's got some things in there that they're going to have to fix. So while we're coming up with the things that we want them to fix, their mind is spiraling. And you know, reality is usually not as bad as what your mind came up with. So I feel like it's a technique to get the sellers calm down after they look at the home inspection. Now they're asking for. So there was 38 things on the home inspection we could have asked for. We're asking for 8. So that's why I like to do it right away also. And it's in here. Don't play games with it. Contingency only authorized inspections, not testing. We went through that. This is contingent upon a Wisconsin registered licensed home inspector performing the home inspection of the property after the date. Everybody has a brother, uncle that works for the city as an inspector or the county or building or this or that or whatever. It doesn't matter. You have to be a Wisconsin's licensed home inspector. If the offer is further contingent upon qualified independent inspector or independent qualified third party performing an inspection of, this is where we could put in the pool, the hot tub, the fireplace, or whatever else we may need to put in there. It does say the buyer may have follow-up inspections recommended in the written report resulting with authorized inspection, provided they occur prior to the deadline specified on 206. So again, with this one for 20 days. Inspections shall be performed by qualified independent inspector or independent qualified third party, like a roofer, contractor, things like that. Buyers should provide sufficient time for the home inspection and specialized inspections, as well as any follow-up inspections. This contingency shall be deemed satisfied unless buyer within 20 days. So that starts the day after acceptance is day 1. So 20 days after acceptance, delivers to seller a copy of the written inspection report dated the date on line 1. After the date on line 1 of this offer and a written notice. So they don't talk about the amendment in here because the amendment is asking, okay? The notice is what's in the offer and a written notice listing the defects identified in those reports to which the buyer objects. Notice of defects. So what we're doing with the amendment is we're kind of softening it. Let's agree on something so we don't have to do the notice of defects. Because if we do the notice of defects, timelines start to change. Things start to come into play. So a proposed amendment, it says, is not a notice of defects and will not satisfy this notice requirement. For the purposes of this contingency, defects do not include structural, mechanical, or other conditions, the nature and extent of which the buyer had actual knowledge or written notice before signing the offer. That is the real estate condition report. The defect is defined on lines 455 through 447, means a condition that would have a significant adverse effect on the value of the property, that would significantly impair the health and safety of future occupants of the property, or that if not repaired, removed, or replaced, would significantly shorten or adversely affect the expected normal life of the premises. Now, here is where we give the right to shall or shall not cure. Let's say you're working with Harriet hypochondriac, okay? And you know if there shows up any mold, asbestos, radon, I don't know, dust, she's going to want to cancel the contract. And she's just going to fight you for it or whatever. You might, and you should be a buyer's agent to do this, you can write seller shall not have the right to cure defects. That way, if you give them a notice of defects, it's over, it's done with. You walk away from the offer. If there's one defect, you can walk away from the offer. You don't have to ask the seller to fix it at all. And then this talks about delivering the written notice to the buyer 10 days after the buyer's delivery of notice of defects stating seller's election to cure. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a line. So we're going to give them the right to cure in this one. If the seller has the right to cure, seller may satisfy this contingency by delivering a written notice to the buyer within 10 days after buyer's delivery of notice of defects, stating the seller's election to cure defects. Number 2, curing the defects in a good and workmanlike manner. And number 3, delivering to a buyer a written report detailing the work done no later than 3 days prior to closing. This offer shall be null and void if the buyer makes timely delivery of notice of defects and written inspection report, and the seller does not have the right to cure, or seller has the right to cure, but seller delivers written notice that they will not cure, or seller does not timely deliver written notice of election to cure. So after you give that notice of defects, they have 10 days to decide what to do. And then the next is about radon. And basically that's the same type of contingency for that. So Glenn and I went to a broker summit type thing for the office or here at CWBR. And what they were saying is that is the number one topic on the legal hotline is inspections and what to do, whether you should send an amendment or a notice. And to me, the easiest way to remember it is amendment is asking, notice is saying, no way, I don't want to do this anymore. The other right thing to do is to send a notice, removing finance contingency, removing appraisal contingency, removing the rest of the inspection. After this inspection is, everybody agrees on it and everything, removing the home inspection contingency when things are all done. Because that just, if you have all of those, like all these 5 things, every time you send a notice, it removes it and your offer gets more secure so that it is a closable offer. Now we just have to go to closing. We don't have something out here that, oh, it's okay, but we're just leaving it hanging out here. So use the notice that way too, okay? Remember, it only goes one way. You know, you are not asking for something like changing a closing date. That's the amendment. You are telling something. We're done with this. We're done with that. We're ready to do this. We remove the home sale contingency, that type of thing. Any questions on any of that? When in doubt, go back and read the sections in your offer to purchase about all of the different, contingencies, because that tells you what to do. That tells you exactly what to do. Any comments, suggestions, or anything else? If you are new into real estate and don't even know about houses, I'm just going to give you my example. I owned a mobile home. It was the second mobile home I ever owned, but I'd never owned a house. And I got into real estate. And I had a dad and a husband. So, I mean, I didn't have a husband anymore, but I still had my dad. And I didn't know much about houses. And so I found a home inspector who let me go along on 3 home inspections the whole time and just kind of described things and explained things to me. And I learned a lot from that because not knowing anything about homes, it was really hard for me to know how to explain stuff. I always go to the home inspection that lasts 30 minutes when the buyer is there, because that I'm going to have to write this stuff up, right? That they find. This gives me a way to ask some questions. And the buyers a lot of times aren't ready to ask questions. They're just like, huh? I can ask questions that I might need to know so I can write this contingency up, suggestions, other things, so I take notes there. I think it is really important. I don't think you should ever miss your buyer's home inspection. Nicole, do you go to all yours? No, she doesn't. See?
I go to mine.
Okay. I'm just teasing. She probably does, but I'm teasing her because she's not answering. So I'm saying no, she doesn't. Because you also are there then so that you can monitor the room, right? I'm the mediator. So the seller could be there, the home inspector could be there, and the buyer could be there. The other agent could be there, and you could be there. I'm going to be there. That way, if the seller, something's going on, I can kind of go see. And the other thing is when we're going through this and we're walking room to room, and they're like, oh, look at this is broken. I use tactics like, oh, Mr. Seller, that looks like something my husband could fix. Can you fix that? Oh, yeah, I can fix that. I can fix that. All right, good. Then we don't have to write that in. Oh, look at over here. Were you even going to keep that? No, I wasn't going to keep that. So I can make things seem less than they are, because you want to see somebody freak out about a faucet or something like that, when in the scheme of things, it's just not that bad of a deal. When I start looking at houses with people, I talk to them about defects. I don't talk to them about these broken little things. I tell them those things are replaceable when we just fix those things. I talk to them about defects. I want the seller to fix things for you where you're going to have to call in somebody. So if you have to call in an electrician, HVAC, a plumber, some type of special contractor, I want you to get that paid for by the seller. If there's missing light plates and outlet covers, you can do that. Okay. You can do that all day long. But you know what a plumber costs per hour or HVAC guy costs per hour? That's what we want done by the seller. And that usually works for not nitpicking. And I teach them that right from the moment I meet them. I start talking about all of that right away.
I feel like especially if they got it for below asking, like I remind them, you already got X dollars off. We are not gonna go in and ask for 5, 10, $20 repairs. Like, you know,
Well, yeah, I think sometimes, people are buying an $80,000 house and then they get the condition and they think that they should it should be like $150,000 house. No, it's going to be an $80,000 house. Okay. So in a, let's say $100,000 house, we're going to have leaking windows. Or we're going to have, it's going to look like that one I just read to you. That was $150,000. That's what it's going to have. Maybe some guy didn't kill himself in the garage, but um, but that's what it's going to have. And I know Nicole and Kelly, you've done a lot of them, but this is going to be recorded too. And I just hope that it helps with some of the agents who haven't done them, or because of the market, or because they're newer. So and you can learn from every single day, every single meeting you will go on. Anything else?
you might have said this, but one thing I like about attending the inspection is, like you said, to control the room. But I need to understand what that inspector is saying, because sometimes it doesn't give you a whole lot there. And I have to be able to put that on the amendment or the notice.
Mhm.
I have to be able to explain it, right? So that's why it's another reason I like to go and yeah, just to keep the buyers off the cliff.
I think that you learn a lot. Here's something that I learned. I've learned a lot, but here's something that I learned, and I will never unlearn it. Whenever two dissimilar metals touch, you will have rusting, erosion. So if a lead pipe and an aluminum pipe touch each other, they're not the same metal. There's always going to be some colorization and stuff. Where was I going to learn that from in life? Right? I mean, there's just stuff that I've learned that I just know now. I don't, because of the 20 years of going to home inspections 30 minutes at a time. And I think you're right. You have to competently write that down on the amendment, and then you're going to have to complement, or then you're going to have to send that amendment over to the other agent and explain to them what that means, along with the inspection report. Of course, the home inspector usually will take any calls and stuff like that, but yeah. And it's always good to have a good home inspector that you trust and you can rely on, and you know that they won't go crazy with anything. That home inspection that I showed you there, that was Mike, the crazy one, Nicole. Anyways, he's usually over the top. Now, this guy, he's not going to be wrong about anything, but he's going to go too far, or he can scare people. But this one, he didn't. But some home inspectors, there, you have to just see how they talk to your clients. You can tell somebody something without scaring them. You can say, "Oh, looks like we're gonna get some rain and maybe some wind." And you can be like, "Oh my God, we're gonna get a tsunami." And how you say things matters. So, especially when it comes to that. All right, so that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, of course, always reach out. Talk to you later. Bye.